Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Profit Tool Belt podcast. On today's episode, we're doing something a little bit different, but not that different. What I'm doing is I'm going to go up the value ladder, up to the level of the shareholder of your company level, which sounds boring, maybe even dry. Maybe you've never even considered that. Maybe you're listening to this going, hey, Rubino, hold on. I haven't even incorporated yet. Oh, that's fine. S Corp, L Corp, LLC, whatever you are, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about your construction business as if you're already a big deal, which I think you are, by the way. One of the things that I wanted to do this year was find new ways to add value through the podcast. I'm very proud that you listen. I love getting the feedback. I've heard from so many of you. I just had a call with a guy named KT. So inspiring to hear him. But I've had Rick call me. I won't use his last name. Rick called me and told me that one change that he heard on the podcast changed his business. And it was a change on the people side. And I hope you're getting that kind of value as well. I really appreciate hearing those things. But today we're going to talk about strategic planning. Strategic planning. One of the things I recognized when I started this podcast is that there are people out there talking about construction from a whole bunch of different perspectives, but there was nobody bringing education to you, the business owner, who's a forward-facing business owner, who wants to move forward in their business, who wants to grow it. You know, you read my book or you've heard of the book, Construction Millionaire Secrets. People want to get to that $1 million mark, and then they want to get to the $10 million mark. That's something I do for people all the time. But how everybody gets there is different because your company's different. Some of you do renovations. Some of you do outdoor kitchens. Some of you just do roofing. Some do HVAC and some do electrical. But what's consistent is we need a plan to pull us forward. And you and I need to be the ones in control of that plan, because I can tell you this, 10 years will pass whether you take part in it or not. All you got to do is wake up every day and 10 years will go by like that. Some of you have a dog you love who's been with you for a long time. You look at it, I remember when that dog was a puppy and now she's 13. How fast did that go? What about if you look at your little girl or your little boy and you go, oh my God, I remember when they were born and now they're graduating. Time will go by whether you and I do anything about it or not. And so when I talk about us being forward-facing business owners, it's because we look to the future and we are creating our own path through the future. Are we going to control everything? No, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to suggest that we can't. There's things we can't control, and those things outside of my control are just plain outside of my control. But I'll tell you what, everything I can control, I'm gonna. And that's why we use something called strategic planning. This is the hidden little secret that really nobody talks about. I talk about it because I recognized nobody was talking about it. Nobody was bringing to business owners the plan in the background. When you look at a successful contractor in your city, or you look at a very successful car dealership in your city, or you look at a very successful independent coffee shop or grocery chain in your city, when you look at a software company that came out of nowhere in your town and now is absolutely crushing it worldwide, what's happening in the background that nobody talks about because it's kind of boring is having a strategic plan. For those of you who were or are in the military, first of all, thank you. All of us appreciate the risks you took and the bravery it took to go do that. I'm glad you're back, by the way. But because you did that, we get to do this. And that's what freedom is. Freedom means I can call whoever I want and ask whatever I want. Freedom means I can listen to any podcast I want. Freedom's not free. Somebody had to fight for that. And again, thank you to all of you for that. But let me put that aside for a second. The strategic plan is like the military has for a battle plan or a re-engagement plan or a movement plan, whatever they call their plan. They don't go at it randomly. There is a plan. There's a plan. And so that same idea exists in business. And it's not a business plan, it's a strategic plan. It's like a business plan on steroids, come to life. The system that I use is called EOS. And that's an acronym. That means each letter stands for something. So EOS stands for the Entrepreneur Operating System. It's from a book called Traction, written by Gino Wickman. That's a great book. Some of you will have also read a book by a friend of mine. His name is Vern Harnish. And many years ago, he wrote Mastering the Rockefeller Habits, which is the first system of strategic planning I was ever trained on. And then he just rewrote another version called Scaling Up, exclamation mark. Both of those models work. I'm going to use EOS today because I use EOS with companies all the time. And I can explain why another time. So let's get into that. Okay. So what we're going to do now in the podcast is, at least for this year, on a quarterly basis, so that's every 3 months, we're going to take the year and we're going to break it into 3-month chunks. Those chunks, you could consider them as sprints. Imagine if you took your business on 4 sprints this year. Sprint being, I want to get from here to there as fast as possible, the most effective way possible, right? So we're going to do that on the podcast. And by doing that, I hope you listen to the episode and go, hey, you know what? I should probably take some of those ideas and put them in place in my company. What would happen if I took action? And then, of course, let's ask the question, because not everybody will do this. What would happen if I didn't take action? Let's use a take action, don't take action example. What would happen to Dom if I decided, hey, I want to change my diet? I want to change the way I eat. And here's the change I'm going to make. Just before I go to bed every night, I'm going to scoop myself a massive bowl of ice cream and I'm going to eat it. And then I'm going to go straight to bed. What would the impact be on me the next day? Assuming I'm not lactose impolite or lactose intolerant, which, by the way, I am. Do not put milk in my coffee. But what would the impact be on me after a day? Really not much. What about after 2 days? What about after 3 days? What about after a week? What about after a year? A year of eating a big bowl of ice cream before I went to bed. What would the impact on Dominic be? Now, instead, let's say that I set a different path for myself, that I was proactive in a different way. And I said, hey, every night before bed, immediately before bed, I'm going to do 1 push-up. But every night, I'm going to add 1 push-up to my program. So on day 1, I'm going to do 1 push-up. On day 2, I'm going to do 2 push-ups. On day 3, you're following the math here, right? 3 push-ups. By the end of the year, I would be able to do 365 push-ups in a row. I just want to point out I'm not doing that exercise, but that's what would happen. Whatever path you set yourself on is the path you will go to. If I chose a vision of that for the future, I can make that happen by taking small actions. And today is just about those small actions. Let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to focus on this 10-year plan and a 3-year plan. That's something you do once a year. And then we have to get to the 1-year plan, which we do once a year, and then the quarterly rocks or priorities. So let me talk about the big elements of that. And today, all I want you to do is listen. I'll have a couple of actions for you, but just listen. Take this in mind. And if you want more information on it, contact me, because my company and myself, we train people on this. It's what we put in place for companies, or go get the book. It's called Traction by Gino Wickman. The first thing we talk about is something you might be surprised at, but if you've listened to my show, you know I do this all the time. We talk about gumdrops and candy floss and candy canes, and it is core values. And I say that because I used to think core values didn't matter. I used to think they didn't matter at all until I realized how much they matter. I actually sold my first, well, it's not the first company I sold, but the big company I sold because my partners and I did not agree on our core values. Values are why you have friction with some people and why you get along with other people. You don't even know why. It's because you see the world in the same way, in ways that are important to you. So the easy way to figure out your core values in your company is think about somebody who is one of your top contributors in your business. Let's say it's your bookkeeper and her name is Shannon, just as an example. Why is Shannon so valuable to you? Why do you recognize her value to the company? You see where the word value keeps coming up, right? And you would say, if you wrote it down on a piece of paper, Shannon is valuable to our roofing company because, or our HVAC company because, right? Or our cabinetry, whatever it is, right? Shannon is valuable because she's always punctual. She's always upbeat. She's always finding opportunities, and she's a really good communicator. Okay, great. That's Shannon, right? And then you say, you know, this other person that's really valuable to us is I hired the neighbor kid, and I didn't think it was going to work out, but his name is Shane, and he's really valuable to our company. Shane shows up on time. He's got a good attitude, even when he's working in the rain, in the heat. in the snow, in the sun. He always sees the positive. He's a great leader of people. And I really like the fact that he pays attention to the details. Okay, what you have just described in two of those people are the things that you value in them, which reflect things you find are important. So go ahead and do that. If there's any exercise to take away from today, find out what you stand for. You guys may have heard me say this before, but I used to live in ranching country in the prairie region. And my rancher buddies, those guys had the craziest sayings, really good sayings. One of them was, Dom, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. That sounds like a rancher saying, doesn't it? What do you stand for? What does your company stand for? Let's say that Shane is an actual person in your company, shows up on time, he's positive, he does good work, he's proud of his work. There's another guy on your crew, and his name is Sam. Sam is late all the time. Sam makes excuses. He kind of gets angry. He's got bad personal habits. Sometimes he leaves for no reason, then just shows up again for no reason. How does that make you feel? Really? Does that give you joy? Does that make you happy to be running this business? Does it make you shake your head? Sam is wasting your time. Shane, good guy. We know who he is, right? I want more Shanes. So I say Shane or Sean. You know who I'm talking about, right? But Sam doesn't deserve to work for your company. Set him free to go work for somebody else. He's dragging down the company. And we've all seen this. If you're listening to this podcast, you've employed enough people to remember the time when you let somebody go. And over the next few days, people came up and thanked you. And over the next few days, productivity went through the roof because you had one person's attitude holding everybody else back. So we look at our core values. It's part of our big strategic plan for where we want our company to look like in the future. If it goes against your values, you feel it in your gut. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about, the next thing you want to revisit on a quarterly basis, even if it takes 2 minutes, you want to revisit who's our perfect customer, who's our ideal client. And I need to know that because I need my staff to know, look, the Sanchez family, we're going to go build a fence for them, or we're going to go install a garage door, or we're going to repair their roof. That's our perfect customer. They live in this kind of neighborhood. They drive this kind of car. This is their expectation. This is who we need to be to serve that customer the best. I, as the business owner, need to understand that the Sanchez family and the Hernandez family and the Chan family who live next to them, they're the perfect customer because they want to buy the service and product that we sell, and they can afford it. And it doesn't matter what your focus is, whether you're commercial or residential. Understanding who your ideal client is super important. When you're listening to my show or doing any of the downloads off the website, you'll hear the core focus talked about as the tool that we use to go find it, which is the end of job report. That's super valuable. The end of job report and the end of job summary, also called the Leprechaun report. If you read the Forbes magazine article I wrote a little while ago. Anyways, now let's move on. The other thing I want to talk to you about, or if I was in the room with you doing your strategic plan and reminding you of it every year and every quarter, by the way, that would look a lot like having a board meeting, a chairperson and a board members. So when you hear somebody in the city saying, oh, they're at such and such a board meeting, that's what we're doing for your company, is I'm showing you right now how to have board meetings in your company. Maybe me or somebody on my team will one day be at that boardroom table with you. Maybe not. You can do it on your own. But we're going to ask you this question. What's your 10-year target? And you're like, 10 years? I have no idea. 10 years? No idea. But remember your dog? She's now 13 years old. Remember when she was a puppy? That 10 years went, whether you faced it or not. So think about this. Here's an interesting exercise. You can do this while you're working. You can do this while you're driving. You don't need to stop anything you're doing. I'm just going to take a drink here. Thank you. How old are you right now? I am 53, so I'll lead with that. How old are you? How old will you be in 10 years? Well, in 10 years, I'll be 63. I did that math on my fingers. 53 now, I'll be 63 in 10 years. What does that mean? 63. Now think about how old your wife is, or your spouse, your partner. How old are they? In my case, my wife is the same age, so we're both going to be 63. My daughter is 16. She just is getting her driver's license now. In 10 years, my sweet little girl, who I remember as a tiny little baby, is going to be 26 years old. My son, the super jock, is going to be 23 years old. He's 13 right now. He's going to be 23. Whether I do anything about it or not, that clock is ticking. How old will your shop be? How old will your truck be? I've got a 2014 Toyota 4Runner. Love the thing to death. Love it. Couldn't be happier. Well, it's a 2014. It's going to be that much older in 10 years. It's probably going to be at the end of its usable life, which means I'm going to leave it at the cabin or I'm going to have to sell it to somebody else. Leaving it at the cabin sounds like a really good idea, but you know what I mean? How old is your car? How old is your fleet? How old is your oldest piece of machinery? Let me put another picture on this. How old is your most senior and valued employee? Let's say his name is George. George might be 3 years from retirement. And when George leaves, what's that going to do to your company? What's going to be lost? What does George know how to do that nobody else knows how to do? What leadership is gone? Think about those things as well. So that's the 10-year target. We need to put that in place. Now I take that 10-year target. And what I want to do is, remember, we're sitting around a table, we're discussing your business, your company, and where it's going. This is one of 4 meetings we're going to have this year. This part that I'm talking about now actually goes very quickly after this first time we do it, which takes a long time. What's the 3-year picture look like? In 3 years, I will be 56 years old. What do I want my revenue to be? What are your sales today? What do you want your sales to be in 3 years? More importantly, what do you want your profits to be in 3 years? What do you want your profits to be in 3 years? I can't fill in that number for you. What I hear quite often from people is, hey, Dom, I'm happy our sales are where they are. We're not profitable. How can it be? We work so hard. I'm hammering the estimating like you wouldn't believe. I'm nudging and bumping the change orders all the time, and we're still not profitable. What are we doing wrong? If that sounds like you, stay tuned to the podcast, because I continually find a specific profit leak for people. And it comes in a place you've heard on my show before, the difference between margin and markup. The actual cost of going to get one more supply from Home Depot or the supplier and driving it back. Those things cost money. And that money doesn't come out of your employee's pocket. It doesn't come out of the client's pocket, the commercial, the GC or the residential homeowner. It comes out of your pocket. That's why we call it the profit leaks. There are 8 profit leaks in any construction business. And fortunately, I've listed those and I know how to go chase them, find them, hunt them down, and make them our pet. I'm going to say the nice word. Okay. What does 3 years need to look like for you? In 3 years, what do you want the world to look like? Let me ask you this, and this could be painful for some of you, and I apologize, but I do want to draw a very sharp point on this 3-year plan. How old are your parents right now? And God willing, they're still with us, and I hope that's the case. But let's say they're with you still. How old will they be in 3 years? What do you need for your child in 3 years? I have 2 clients, by the way, whose daughters got engaged this Christmas. What does that mean? You got to pay for half a wedding, like at least half a wedding. That means something. That means real money. And when you're already struggling for profits, how the heck are you going to do that? But you smile. You meet the other family. Of course, we're going to pay. Absolutely. And then you come back to the office and you start hammering those estimates harder. It's time to work smarter, not harder. That's why you listen to this show, I hope, other than for the awesome dad jokes that I drop. Okay, so what does the 3-year need to look like? You have to write that down. I can't tell you what the 3-year plan needs to look like. Your wife or your husband, your spouse, your partner. Nobody can tell you. You tell us what that 3-year plan looks like. Once you've set the goal for what you want in 3 years, then we can do the next part. This part starts to go faster. What's the 1-year plan? What do I need to do this year? So let's just say, for the sake of it, you're currently a $1 million business. Congratulations, by the way. That's a very difficult and notable place to get. You're doing $1 million a year, but you're only taking out your wage of $60,000. And the accountant said you made $20,000 in profit, but you never saw it. But that still means You got $80,000 you pulled out on $1 million company. Not bad, but truthfully, you could go work for somebody else and make that money without any of the headaches, right? So you want more, which is absolutely your right. The reason you started a business is to be in control of your destiny. And that's something I help people with all the time. How do we make more? Well, what is more? Do you want to make $100,000? Do you want to actually take $100,000 out of this business? And again, I'm using numbers, but your numbers are your numbers. That I'm not saying 100,000 is high or low. It's just a number. What I want you to do is leave the office. I want you to take a blank notebook and a piece of paper. You guys have heard me say this a million times. It's your turn to do it. I want you to go to your favorite coffee shop. I want you to get yourself a cup of coffee. I want you to face the wall so nobody can bug you. I want you to turn off your phone so nobody can bug you. I want you to tell the office, I'm in an important meeting with a very big GC, which is you. I can't be bothered for the next hour. Go to that coffee shop and sit there. Have a muffin. Enjoy the time. But you have a blank piece of paper mocking you. And you've got a pen challenging you. Use me. Write on me. Tell me what you're going to do. This year, I will make 100,000 free and clear. I will take 60,000 as my salary, and I'm going to get 40,000 in profits. Just write that down. Take a sip of your coffee and look out the window. What do you see out the window? Do you see a beautiful desert? Do you see beautiful mountains? Do you see a hustle, bustling street in a major city? What do you see? Relax for a second and then write down. If I want to pull an extra $40,000 out of this business this year, this is what I need to do. And all I want you to do is write down 3 things. That's it. My friend, you have just created your quarterly action plan. The magic is in the accountability. The magic is in the little tricks, the shortcuts. There's 1,000 shortcuts, 1,001. There's 1,000 I know about, and there's 2,000 I don't even know about yet that I'm still learning. How many shortcuts do you have? You have some. Go use them. Put them in place. You already had the tenacity, the jaw strength to bite onto this business and hold on for this long to get you to $1 million. You can get these 3 things done. I have complete faith in you. One of my clients had to come up with a very difficult decision. She runs a manufacturing company, and one of the problems is a certain type of finish on their finished products really causes them problems. Massive backup in the company, massive. And so just while we're having the meeting, I said, well, I'm going to give you the permission. You no longer have to take that kind of finish on that specific type of product. And this weight came off her shoulders that I didn't realize I had the right to remove. Somebody gave her permission to turn down that work. I'm giving you that permission now, my friend. Stop doing bad work. Stop working for bad customers. Stop working for customers that aren't going to pay you. And if you say, but Dom, all the customers don't pay me, then you have an ideal customer problem. We can go back and fix that. Everything is in your control. Maybe you're in the wrong line of business. That's a tough conversation. Or maybe you're just running the business the wrong way. And I don't say wrong in any disrespectful way. You just need to change a couple of things, right? Imagine that you're not the only one who's ever been in that situation where the way you're running your company has to change or the company will die. I'll give you an example we all know about, Netflix. Netflix. Do you remember how Netflix started? Some of you do. The way Netflix started is you had to get their catalog, and then you had to send them something by mail that says, I'd like to rent this DVD of Happy Gilmore. And then they would mail you that Happy Gilmore DVD. You would watch the DVD, and then you would mail it back to them. So think about the infrastructure that they had to run Netflix at the time. They were a mail order house. They were a shipping house, right? They had to send and receive mail. They had to market, first of all, to find people who were willing to do that. Then they had to send and receive mail. They had to be really good at that. So think about all the mail sorting and the mailing machines and the employees that go along with that. All the money they spent on stamps and on packaging and on perfect marketing and how it looked. And then they had to ship you a DVD in a way that was safe and secure. They got to you on time. They got to you quickly, right? Because we want good customer service. We want to bring you back again. They had to add little marketing in there, say, well, if you rented Happy Gilmore, you might like this movie too. If you like Adam Sandler, you might like Will Ferrell, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? They had an entire machine built around mailing you a DVD. And then one day at a strategic planning meeting, just like the one we're having right now, somebody at the desk said, hey, I think we have to get out of the mailing stuff to people business and get into the digitally delivering stuff business. What do you think happened at that boardroom table? Swearing, muttering. There's some guy at that table in charge of all the mailing. There's some lady at that table in charge of all the DVD shipping. There's some other person there in charge of all the DVD returns. And somebody at the table had to have the cojones to say, we're changing our business model. We're going digital. Imagine what Netflix had to go through to get there. And now look at what Netflix is. This is your company. You get to be the person that makes the bold changes and then gets rewarded for the success. That felt a bit heavy. Can I bring another boardroom table into the picture so that you can laugh a little bit? It's not really a dad joke, but it's a dad observation. I like to joke around with my son. And so I don't know where we were, but my wife bought these Oreo cookies, but they were Oreo cookies with like nerds in them, like some other candy in the white stuff. And I'm sitting there with my son. I think we were fishing. And I said to my son, his name is Joseph, JJ. I'm like, look at this thing. And he's like, yeah. I go, do you realize that at a boardroom table somewhere, somebody stood up and said, all right, look, we got the Oreo cookie. I need ideas from everybody. How do we cram more sugar into this thing? How do we make it even sweeter? And people came up with ideas. Dave in the corner, he's like, let's partner with nerds, put nerds in them. Let's put hot rocks in them. Let's make double stuff. So there's double the amount of stuff. But they had to have a meeting at that boardroom table that said, hey, look, we got the Oreo cookie, arguably the most dippable cookie in the world, and say, how do we add more junk to this thing? This little heart-stopping missile that we've created. That boardroom table is a powerful place. It can change the world. It can change yours and it can change mine. Anyways, that's our first quarterly plan review. Again, I'm going to do this. It's probably going to take a couple of different forms over the year. We're going to do it at least 4 times for the podcast. I hope you came up with an action. Remember that piece of paper I asked you to write? What's the difference to you to pull out an extra $40,000 in profit? What would that 40 grand mean to you? Maybe that 40 grand is how you're going to be able to get your mom in a home. Maybe that 40 grand is going to send your daughter to college. Maybe that 40 grand is going to help you pay off your house so your wife feels totally confident and safe that the house isn't at risk. I don't know what you want to do with the 40 grand. That's actually not my business at this point. I'd love to hear your goals. If you want to work with me and my team, like really get into your goals, there's different ways we can work together to do these planning things, to keep making your business what you want it to be. But you and I have to be the kind of people who take action. Listening to the show is perfect. It's a great place. Just keep doing that. But some of you are going to want to do more. Find ways to do more. Go get the book called Traction by Gino Wickman. And the model we're talking about today is EOS. Some of you will use Vern Harnish's Scaling Up model, which is also fantastic. Both of these are excellent systems. I don't care which system you use, just have a system and use it. But if you want to work with me, let me know if that's in part of your plan. Maybe that's your Q2 plan, your Q3 plan. Maybe that's your plan for October. That's fine. Then put in your book. Call Dom and Dom's team in October. Get started. Whatever you want, right? Delete Dom's podcast from podcast player. That's another goal. Hey, by the way, just while we're talking about it, if you do enjoy this stuff, please leave feedback. Please leave some sort of review if you're getting value from this. And the reason I say that is if I see reviews, it tells me, hey, that episode was good, or that topic was good, or people appreciate it when I do this, not that. One of the things I get back as very surprising, but very much appreciated is the fact that we don't swear on the pod. We don't curse or cuss on the show. And I know a lot of people here are strong in their faith. A lot of people listen with their kids in the car, and a lot of people just don't cuss. So anyways, that's feedback I get all the time. So that's nice. And then people often comment on my jokes. What am I going to say about that? Those dad jokes. All right, folks, let me end by saying I'm very proud that you take the time to share with me. I love it. I think it's so cool that we have this kind of technology, and I can share what I've learned with other people through my coaching meetings and through what I've done in building and growing my own businesses with you. Sometimes you're going to disagree with me. That's okay. Sometimes I'm going to frustrate and annoy you. That's okay too. And sometimes I'm going to inspire you and you're going to say, Dom's right. I can do this. I got this. And that's what I'm here for. Have a great day, folks. Stay tuned. Next segment is Story Time with Dom. Real stories about real people and real situations. We'll see you there.